Welcome guys, welcome to this video. In this video we are going to use PDO in PHP, and we are going to create a complete API. So we will see the routes, how we create the routes in PDO. So we have here the route for inserting, the same way we have route for updating, creating, deleting, everything. We are going to see how we deal with different type of data sets. So how to pass data using forms, and how to pass data using raw data, and with the different you can see here we have single post data getting selected, we have posts where we are getting all the posts, then we have here insert data where we are adding the posts, and the same way we are deleting it as well. So one by one we're going to see all the concept, and without wasting any time, let's get started to see how we can create this API using PDO PHP. Alright guys, to start with, first we have the XAMPP server running, so make sure you have XAMPP installed and running. And after that, in the C directory, in XAMPP directory, htdocs, I have a Sky folder which is currently empty, so this is going to be the project folder for now. Now I'm going to open the Visual Studio. I'm going to open this folder inside this, so I'm just going to drag and drop there. Okay, now I'm going to close this one, and here so far we don't have any file, so we need to create a few directories to work with our API. And for this API we will be using the Postman, so I have Postman installed here. So here is the Postman. Alright, I'm going to close this, so it's just brand new. We're going to create the calls and everything from here. For now I'm going to minimize it, so if I go here, currently I want to go and see the database, so localhost/php myadmin. There we have a database prepared, test database. There are two tables, one is posts, one is category. So in posts I have the ID, then title, then category ID, then description. So basically the type of blog database here. And then we have category, and we have 4 categories of different programming languages. So the common field is the category ID, so we have 3 to 1 here, and all those categories are present here. So now, first thing first, what we need to do, we need to for our API we need to set a database connection. And as we are just starting up, we need to create the directory structure. So what I do, I create we already inside the Sky folder, we can create here a few folders. So first I'm going to create a folder for model, and in this models folder we will create the model, which is going to communicate with the database. Now also we need another folder, and it's going to be config. So any configuration file we create, we put in here. So for example, we need to connect to database, so we're going to create a database class, and it will be created inside this directory. Now we also need an API folder, which is going to deal with APIs, and also you can under categorize here. So if you we want to work with posts, if you want to add something else, some another API, you can create that inside it. So for example, it's an API, I can create another folder inside it which is post. So all the files related to post API are going to be in this directory. So yeah, that's how it's supposed to go. Now let's create the first file. So we need to work with the database connection first, because without connecting to database we can't pursue. So I create a file with the name of database.php, and in here we need to create a class. So that's the reason I gave this class this file database name, and the D is capital because it's going to be a class. So here I'm going to say first that we start PHP, then we want to have a class, so class keyword comes, and then we say database. Alright, and here in this class we need to create a few properties. So I'm going to add the comment here, and database properties. Properties a variable. So here we want to say private and $host, which is going to be equal to host name. Localhost, sorry. Now why I gave it private? Because this is going to be the connection to the database, and this class will use these properties. we don't want any access of these properties outside of this class. So that's why we are passing private here. So I'm gonna add further private and $db name. In our case, our database name is test, and we need to pass that database name here, test. Or what I do to make things a bit faster, just gonna copy and paste these several times. Alright, now we need here a username for our database. We also need here password, which is going to be empty by default, and also a variable for connection. So here $connection, and spelling should be correct. Alright, so for username it's going to be root. If you have changed the name, you can add that name here. Now I'm going to create a function for making connection to database, and this function is public function, so you can call it outside of this class as well, and I'm going to call it connect. Alright, and inside this function, what we want to do, we want to get the I'm going to put the try statement here. So try statement needs to help us identify if there is any error or something like that. So it's going to throw an exception. So here I'm going to say catch, and we're going to pass here PDO exception. Okay, so it's a PDO exception we're passing $E. And then how you display the error, you simply say echo $E, and there is a method get message. And it will display as the error. Now here, basically what we want to do, we want to return the connection. So we have the connection set up here. So what we want to do, we can set this connection by default null, and here we want to return this. So here is a return $this connection. Now, if you guys did right, we have null here and we are returning it here. So that means we want to do something here. So yes, we want to connect it. So here I can copy this and paste here, and it is going to be equal to connection. So here, what I do, make it a little bigger here, and I'm going to say new PDO instance here, and then we want to pass the configuration. So we say here MySQL, and then host. Now we have variables properties set on the top, so we need to pass those. So I'm going to say here dot to concatenate, and then we want to say $this host. So we are referring to this class using $this and then this property, so dollar and then host dot here. Then again we need to pass here db name equals to, and we need to pass here the property. So db name we have here, just gonna copy that and paste here. Now once you have this, the other two properties can be passed straight away, not inside quotes, so we need to just say $. Alright, so that's it for now, and yeah, it looks like this. So here we're going to connect to the database. We have connection stored here and we are returning here. So whenever we are going to call this class and this method, we're going to have the access to the database. Now let's get the post. So by default, I created here these database. So we already have some default posts here. So we can get these posts straight away and display it. So what I do, I'm going back to the directory. In the models, we can create a model as we are dealing with the posts table. So we can create a model for posts. So it's a good practice to name your model singular. So I'm going to call this model post and .php. All right. And to work with this, what we need to do, we want to make sure if we face any error, we get the that error on the screen. So error underscore reporting, I want it to be on, so it's going to be e underscore all, and it's going to be on, and it will let us know if there is any error. We can also set ini underscore set, and then they're going to be display underscore error to 1. Now let's create this class. So for creating class, we just pass class keyword, then the post, just like that. Now it's a model class. So model class is referring to this database table. So we have the fields here, these title, category, ID, description. So we need to add these here as properties. So what do we do? First of all, I see here post properties. Just provide a bit of spacing so we can see it easily. Now here I'm going to say public, and the first one is going to be ID, public $category underscore ID, public $title. Order doesn't matter, but it's up to you how you want to do it. $description. Net last we have public created underscore at, and I forgot the dollars to make sure it should be there. So far so good. We have all the fields in the model. Now what we want for our connecting to database, we need the connection. So we're going to be database data, and here we want here private $connection, and this is in this class we're creating this variable, and also we're defining the private, and dollar should be after, so it's going to be $table. So the table, database table, and it's post table we are dealing with. All right, so once we have this, what we can do, we can first set this connection with the database. So in class we have constructor method, so we use that one to set up this. So it's a public function underscore construct. All right, and here what are we going to do? We're going to get the $db, and once we get the access to $db, we say $this, and connection equals to $db. Now you might say where this $db came from, and we are assigning it here, that's fine, but how we are going to get the access to this? So when we are going to say, let's say we're going to instantiate this class, we will say new post, and there we can pass here inside the quotes, we can pass a connection, and that connection, what we pass here, comes straight away in this $db, and we will see in a moment how it works. So here we're just setting the database connection. All right, now let's do this because we want to read all these posts first. So I create a method here, and here method to read all the saved posts from database. All right, so this is the responsibility of this method. So it's a public function read posts. All right, this is the method. Now this method won't take any arguments, it's going to be all by itself like this. Now what we need to do here, we need to basically pass a query. So I'm going to add here query for reading posts from table, and here we say $query, and here what we want to do, we want to pass single quotes, and then we want to write the query inside it. Okay, so how we want to start the query? So what do we need to do? We want to say select, and we want to get the category, we want to get the all the fields, so title, category ID, and also we want to get the categories as well, because category names are in a different table, and here in the main post table we have the IDs, and we don't have the name of the category, so we want to attach this. So I'll show you how we can do that. We say category dot name as category. So what we are saying, we're simply saying that, okay, from category table get the name, and we are passing on that. Okay, then comma, we are going to say here posts dot id. Now here we are not going to use as, because we just want the id as id, and then posts dot title, all the fields one by one, posts dot description. We have posts dot category underscore id. That's up to you if you want this category id, because we already have the name here getting, so we don't need it, but I'm just going to call it anyway. And here at last we want to say posts dot created underscore at. So all the fields are here. Now what do we want to say? We want to say from, and we want to mention the table name. So here I'm going to break the single quotes, and here we're going to pass $this. And if you remember, we passed the table name in the class here, right here. So we can call this inside here. So here we say $this table. All right, so it knows which table to go to. Now after that we want to say posts, and here we say left join. Now if you are not familiar with joins, basically what joins do, it's going to see, okay, we have post table, their category ID has this. So we are going to join a table, like category table, and we're going to join the data with the ID. So here, if the 3 is the category ID, so here is 3, it's going to get the name. It's going to join this basically table, and then we'll be able to get the category name by category ID. So here we're just going to join these two tables so that we can get data as we want. So here left join, then we're going to say here category and on. So here we say posts dot category underscore ID. All right, so we are telling join it because we have posts table which has a field where the category ID is equal to in category table with the ID. So these IDs are equal to these IDs, so join these two tables. That's what we are basically saying here. And once you do this, after that we can order by this to order by, so order space by, like this. And you can say here posts and dot created underscore at. And if you want ascending order, you say ASC. Otherwise, if you descending order, you say this. Okay, so this way the latest post is going to be on top. So this is the query. Now what we want to have to prepare this, because we are using PDOs. And what we're going to do here, I'm simply going to set up this. And if you remember, we passed the connection, and this connection is going to be called when we instantiate this class, so we can use this connection here. And then we also can use the prepare method from PDO. So here all we need to do, we need to pass the query that we created above. So this query we are passing here, and now we can pass this whole into a variable. So I'm going to call this post, and I want to execute it so that we can get the results. So here I say $post and execute. And if you caught me, here is the error. We missed the E. Spelling should be correct, otherwise you place the error. So here I return $post. Alright, so here is the function ready for reading the post, but the thing is it won't work. To make it work, we need to instantiate this class, and for doing that we need to create a file. So let's do that, because otherwise it's not going to work, because we can't just simply run it. So for that, in API, I create a folder post, right? Here, what are we going to do? Here, we're going to create a file, and I'm going to call this file posts.php. Now, this post.php, basically the role of this file is to include all the post-related data and display the posts and data. So let's do that. So first thing, what I want to do, I want to get the PHP tags opening. So I'm just going to copy and paste from here. I'm going to include few headers. So here, headers. So for header, you simply pass header. And here, what we want to do, I'm going to say here access is. In this file currently nothing we have, because we have connection that is created in a different file. We have a query which is created in a different file. In this file we don't have anything like that, so we need to include those files here to get the benefit, to get the posts. So first thing, we want to connect with the database. So here I say connecting with database by calling the database. So here we're going to say actually, what I do, I simply call here including required files, and it's going to be include underscore once, include this file once. And what file we want? We are in post directory, so we need to go back to API, and then outside of API, then in config, and then database. So that's the, so we can do that by // and then // Now doing this, you are out of post directory, and second time you're out of API directory. Now you need to go inside the config directory. So for that config, and after that inside config directory we have the class database.php, and that's how you include it. Now we need to include the post model. So for that, the only thing, I'm just going to copy paste this. Instead of config, it's going to be models, right? And here this is going to be post.php. So yeah, so by doing this we have the access to this class, right? And as we have the access to this class, we can run this function, and we can pass this database. So let's do that. So what we can do here, I'm gonna say like new post. All right, and if you remember, I told you that we need to pass a database. So as we need to pass a database in this new post, we should have database on top. So here we say new database. All right, so this new database is going to be $database is equal to this, and then I say $db is equal to $database. Now this is just the access to the class. We need to get to that method that is connecting to the database. So we are going to call that method here like this, connect. Now we have the connection, because that is getting returned here, and it is going inside this DB. Now this DB we are expecting in this post class in constructor, you can see, and we want to do that here. We're going to pass it here like this. So we have the access to database in the post model now. So here we say $post is equal to this, and now it's the time to read the posts. So I simply say here $post, and we have access to $post model. We have the access to read posts. So I'm going to copy this, paste here, and it should work. It should get us the posts. So what we need to do now, let's display these posts. So here I'm going to check if there is posts. So if there is posts in database, so how we can do that, we're going to simply put this into a $data is equal to like posts. Then I'm going to say here if $data, and there is a method row count. So this is going to provide us a number. If that number is 0, this condition will be false and it will not execute. If it provides more than 0, then this condition will be true and we will be able to execute it. So I'm passing it here. If it is more than 0, then execute this. And else we can pass a message. So I simply say here echo and JSON encode. And here I'm going to pass an array message, and that's going to be no posts found, or no data found, whatever you want to say. So that's it. Now we in here, if we have the post, what do we want to do? So here what I do, I simply create a first empty variable. So I'm going to call this empty variable posts. All right, and I'm going to set it to equal to empty array. Then we want to rearrange the posts. Okay, so we're going to loop through the post and create an array. So how we do that? So we say while loop, and here I'm going to say $row equals $data fetch. Okay, so here we want to pass the PDO and fetch method, what method you want to use. So it's a fetch underscore object. It's simply like we are saying that, okay, fetch this data, and we want to get the object. If you want associative array or something else, you can pass here. Now, for that, you need to go into PDO documentations. So here in PDO documentation, we need to, because we are working with fetch method, we need to look for fetch method. So we go scroll down here. Here is the PDO fetch statement. Now here we have the mod. So PDO default is here. And if you scroll down, you will see the mods. So we have here for associative array, we have this mod. And for object, we have here. So you can see the examples as well. If you scroll down, you will notice these given here. If you pass both, if you pass associative, what kind of results you're going to get. These are here. Now we were passing an object, so we are expecting object here. So here, what I'm going to say, I'm going to call the empty variable of ours, and inside this, I'm going to pass the $row. And now let's do this first before doing anything. I want to see what exactly happening here. So what I say here, I say print underscore r $row. All right, and here, yeah. So let's see if it is working or if we face error, what happens. To make it work, what we need to do, we need to go to this file. So first, we say localhost. Then we say the folder name. So if you remember, this is a Sky folder. And after that, in Sky, we have API, then post. So /API/post. And then inside it, we have posts.php. Hit enter, we get, okay. So we are getting the data here. And if I make change here, and before this, what we can do if we copy this URL. So if you don't want to check through here, you can go into your Postman, and here I create a request, paste the URL. It's going to be GET request because we are getting the posts, send, and you will notice that we are getting the standard object just like that. So we are getting the data. Now, if we want to rearrange it for, let's say I go back here in our code. So if I want to show only the title, I will say here like title like this because we are fetching an object. And for that, if I refresh here, the raw data, you can see we have title. It's not breaks in between, so it's coming in a single line, but we are getting the data as we should. So what I want to do, I want to make it, rearrange it as we want. So here I simply remove this. And I want to say $posts, and inside $posts I want to say $row ID. So this is, you got the ID. So if you remember, I go back to Postman here, we have the access to, let's see, yeah, we have category, ID, title, description, so we can call any of this. So we are doing that. So we are calling ID first, and then inside it we want to store the data. So here I say ID. Now, how you want to arrange it, it's totally up to you. I'm doing it just to clear the point here that you can rearrange data. If you want to arrange it in a different manner or whatever you prefer, you can do that. Now here, simply, I'm just gonna say here $row, and it's gonna be category. All right, so here. Just gonna copy paste instead to save time. Okay, so we can see from here category, then we have the description, then we have the title, and last field is created _at. For For values, we have ID, we have category, we have description. Then we have for title, and for created underscore ad. Alright, so it's going to loop through, and each time it will insert inside this with an ID of index, and it's going to paste there. Now we're getting this red because we don't have semicolon here. So it looks good to me. Now we are going to make it into a JSON format. So we say echo, and we want to pass this actually. So I copy this, and the same way we are encoding in JSON format here, we want to pass our array inside this. So this post is array, so we pass here. Now I'm echoing it. The reason is because if you go to this page, we want to see it. Now, in case you're working with a code in an application, you might want to store it or display it. It's totally up to you what you want to do. So now we have it here. Let's see what happens. Okay, over here, refresh. We have the JSON data showing up here. For more better view, we go to the Postman and hit send. Now here it is all mixed up, so we need to go into pretty. And here you can see that we have the ID. And then we have an object with that detail. Now you get the idea. If you want to pass the ID here, you can pass the ID, you can pass the name as well. If you don't pass the name, you remove this, then it's going to be ordered in a, you can see it's just the objects one by one after the other. But if you want to have it in an ID, you can have it in ID, or you can pass anything there. You get the point. Now I told you that why we use headers. Basically, if you remove the headers, and that also affects when you fetch the data. So if you send here, you can see now, even in the pretty, we are not getting the data as we want to see. So these headers helps us to see the data properly, to go through the requests properly and get the data properly. So here, we are not going to go into detail of each header, but you get the point. These headers are important. All right, so we have the data for our posts, so we are getting here. Now as we are dealing with the database here with the posts, and that's the reason we will be only working on single model. So we have the one method for read post, one going to be for create, for update, and for delete. So let's do that. Let's create another method. So here I say first comment, so method for reading single post. So I want to read single post first, and let's call this method here public function, and it's going to be read underscore single underscore post. All right, now this will take an ID. So by default, I pass an ID here like this, and then we want to execute the query. So whatever ID we pass, we want to going to set to this class's ID that we have on top. So we want to say here $this ID equals $ID. Now after that, we want $query, and what query going to be? Let's pass the query. It's going to be select. And what we can do, basically, we can copy and paste the previous query. So I'm gonna copy this, and then we can edit this query, because in this old query we are reading all records. Here we are going to read one according to the ID of it. So we have here select. Okay, we have the post. Everything is going to be the same. Now instead of order by here, because it's going to be a single post, we want to have where posts dot ID equals, and I want to pass here question mark, and I'm going to call here, it's a parameter from PDO, and I'm going to say limit 0, 1, and this query is going to get us the single query post. Now this is going to tell us what exactly is going to be the ID. We are going to put the ID later. We are not passing straight away any variable. So for example, there is an option that you could pass it like this, $this, and then ID. But for using PDO and for securing our query better, we want to pass it using a name parameter of PDO. So what do we do here? Simply, we do it this way. So we say here $post just like we did before, $this, and we refer to connection. And then we say we want to prepare the statement. We pass $query. So far we haven't provided the ID, and we will be providing it soon. Now to provide the ID, we say $post, and then we are going to say bind value, and in bind value we want to pass here an ID. So we have ID here 357. These are the present IDs. So I say, let's say ID 3, and we say we want to bind it to this dot ID. All right. Now what happens is this is going to be binded and inserted here, and then we are going to get the post. So let's see. So we say return $post, and just going to return a post. So you get the point. For each functionality, for reading all posts we have one method, for reading single post we have this method now. So we need to go and instantiate our class again and call this function, and we want to see it in a new URL, so not on this one, because this is for all posts. So for a new URL we need to create a new file. So you go here, we create a file named single.php for single posts, and rest almost going to be the same. So I'm going to go into posts, and here I'm going to copy till here everything. So you get the idea here that we are first getting the show our errors, then we are saying headers, include them, then we are getting database and post model, because methods are all in the post model. Then we are saying, okay, get the database, we have database connection, we are passing connection to post model. Now here we need to work with the single. So let's do that. So what do we want to do here? We want to say if, and we want to define like how you want to pass the ID. So generally you will have ID passed using query string. So we're going to just check for that. So if I say set $_get, and I pass here ID, and I say here okay, then echo it if we have the ID. Simple. Just to see if we are getting there or not. So I want to go for single.php, and when I hit enter, nothing. Then I say a question mark ID equals 2, and you can see we have ID 2, but we don't have anything regarding ID 2, so we need to pass ID that we have in database. So I pass here ID 3, so we get ID 3. So that means we are accessing the ID perfectly. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna call our method. So if you remember, in the post model we have method, and which is expecting an ID, and that's where we pass the ID. So here we go. We simply say okay, $post equals $post, and here we say I'm gonna call the name read single post method, and we can pass this just like that, and it's going to get us the results. We need to put in here, and whatever put in here we can fetch it and display it. So let's do that. Let's display the results. So we say if, and we want to show something. If it is not, we want to give the error. So if I did it already, so it's just going to copy from there. So just going to go here for else. So it shows now here inside it we can actually we can also use the same code for the post, because here it was adding the multiple posts, but in single it will add only one. So we still will have a post. So have a single post here. So let's see. So if I go here, refresh, no post found. Let's see what happened here. Alright, let's see what issues we have, why we are getting no posts found. So if I notice here, the first thing I'm noticing that I missed something here. If you notice, we have the post count, we are looping through, then we set here $data fetch, but if you see here, I noticed that $data is never defined in this file. If you go to post, we have $data here. So we need to have this, otherwise it won't work. So I'm just gonna copy this and gonna go here and paste this. So here we are saying post read post method, and here we are doing the same. But the difference is here we are putting it data, and I copied the code from that file, so we are expecting data. So all we need to do, we need to just change the name of this variable to make it correct. And now we have access to data. Now we're gonna fetch it. So it should fix it. Let's see. Refresh. Raw data, we have another error. Call to undefined method row counts. So, okay. We just pause it here. Refresh. No post data. Alright, so let's see what's happening in the model. We are here, and I passed the unnamed parameter here, and I've seen my mistake here because I didn't pass the value correctly. That's why we're facing the error. So I'm going to comment this. We're going to go to PDO website, and there we need to look for bind value. So bind value basically takes the values we have here. A few examples, let's say. So the reason our statement is not working because for bind value we have a named parameter here. So we have color, and we passing that color here in the string, and then we are passing color, and then we are telling what exactly this is of type, and then we are saying execute it. So I missed that point, so let's correct that. So for that, first of all, I'm going to show you with the named parameter and then the without naming. So I pass here column ID. I copy the same statement, paste like this. So the first thing we want to say here is going to be the ID. So we are saying the bind value with this ID, and this is the ID value, and the last parameter is the here we get comma, and then we have param underscore int, I think. Yeah, so here we have PDO param underscore int. So that's the type, what kind of value we have. So we are passing this. Now, if you don't get confused here, just try to understand. We passed here ID. So we said, okay, we have passed the named ID. So we are giving it a name of ID. Here we are saying, okay, we have ID, pass this value in it, and its type is integer. We are doing it. Now, it's not going to work because we need to execute it as well. So we are going to do that here. So it's a $post execute. Alright, now doing this, we should have everything working. So you can see now we have our post coming here with the ID 3. So this is working now. Now let's do that the way we were doing it before. Before we were passing it using question mark instead of name parameter. So I'm going to remove this. So here I remove it and put question mark. Now if you want to pass it this way, all you need to do, you pass the execute and then pass an array. Now this array is going to be the value you're passing, so we want to pass the value to our ID. And let's say if you say where post ID is this and post ID posts.id is this, your query has some like multiple question marks, then you will pass comma $this ID. You know, yeah, that this is going to refer to the first one. This will allow me to orient to the, let's say, second ID. So this will go to this where. So it's order matters in this one. So I'm gonna remove this for now because we only have one. All right. So we should have the same results. So refresh here, you can see we're still getting the data. So that's working. If I go back to PDO documentation here, we also have option of passing this like this. So here we have colors. So we are passing bind colors. So let's do this way as well. So here we still leave the question mark like that. And the way I was doing it before, let's get it that way. So $post. And what we are doing here we are saying, I'm just going to copy this. So I'm going to copy the above one because we are passing the integer here instead of so bind value, which we have first value we are defining here, second value we're defining here. In our case, it's going to be first value, then we need to pass the ID here. So it's going to copy this. And it's going to take this here. And we are telling that, okay, first value in question mark, pass this ID into this type integer. Now, again, we need the execute here. So I'm just going to copy paste execute from above. So this is another way you can do it. Go back there, refresh. So you can see it's still working. So our code is working just fine. So any way you prefer. So what I do, I'm going to leave this code as it is as here. And we are passing it using this. Okay, great. Alright, now what I do, I copy this and go to Postman. And here, create a new request. It's going to be the GET request. And we hit send here. And we get the data as we expected. Beautiful. Now it's time to add more records because we are not storing any. So for that, what we do, if you guessed it right, we will again go to the post model because anything we do, we are dealing with the same database table. So for that, same model will be used. So here we say method to create new records. All right. So it's going to be public function create new and post. You can call it anything you like. So I'm just going to call it like this. So here, what we're going to do, we want to first have a try statement. Echo $e get a message. All right, so that's good. Now in here, inside it, what are we going to do? We want to say the properties first we want to get. So we have the properties here that we define on top, so we can call these properties and assign the values. So when we're going to create a record, we're going to pass some data. So, for example, we need to provide this detail, title, we need to provide category, we need to provide description. So we will be getting some data. So what I do, I'm going to call it dollar perms. So we're going to get a variable with the values. And here, what we say assigning values. And I say $days. And we have here title, which is going to be equal to $perms. And this is going to be an array. So we will receive an array of data, and I'll show you how. So I'm just going to pass here that whatever title we get from the user, we want to pass in this title. Just like that. I want to copy this, paste it multiple times. Here, second is just going to be description. And then we have the category underscore ID. All right. Same way we need to pass these here. Description, category, spellings are not right. Copy and paste. Brilliant. Now once we have the data, we want a query to execute. So let's have a query. So query to store new post in database, and that's going to be $query. Now again, we will have a query, then we're going to prepare, then we're going to bind values, just like that. So first we get the query. So here we say, okay, we want to insert. So it's a insert into. Now we need to provide a table name, space, then we concatenate here $days table. And if you remember, we provide the name of table on top here. So we're saying that, okay, insert in this table. Concatenate again and continue the query. Inside here, what we want to say, let me have it in a new line so it's easy to read. Set, and then title. Now this time, instead of using question mark, I'm going to use the named parameter. So I'm going to call here title like this. All right. Then we want to pass category underscore ID. It is going to be equal to category underscore ID. I should have space here. Let's see. We want to work with this. So we say here $post equals $this. Again, we need access to connection, and we need to prepare the statement. and we pass here the query just as usual. After that we say $post, and here we want to bind the values. So there we say bind values. So first value is title, and we want to pass a value to it. So we say $this title. Now we are assigning the value here, and then we are using the value here. So it's gonna work just fine. I'm gonna copy and paste this. Now the third parameter, the one we use, that's optional, but we can pass it here. So this is a string title. This is going to be string as well. And or let's see without it. So if I remove these, let's here we have it's going to be the details, which is going to be equal to the description and value in database. And then we have category ID, which will getting the data value from here, save that in database. So here we bind the values. So now here we need to execute it. So we simply say if $post, and I say execute method. So I can say return true. All right, if it puts the value, otherwise return false. Okay, so it's gonna do this, and or what we can do, I get this and go here. Actually we paused there, so this is fine, return true, return false, so we will be adding it. Now this time we need to use this function, so we have the function ready. So for storing, we need to go to a new URL again. So if I go here, we have single and we have posts, which is already used. So for creating, we can call like insert here. So let's do that. So what I do, I go back to here. In post, we create a new file. I call it insert.php. And this insert.php will have quite common code as well. So we can copy from here till this post. Everything is the same. So I'm going to copy and paste. So we are showing the headers, including database and post model. We are using the database class and then the post model. So, okay. So what do we want to do here? We want to save the data. So what I do is say if, and I want to check that if there is data. So we say count. This is a PHP function which checks if there is, it counts the array elements basically. So we have here $post. So we have some data there. What we want to do, we want to say print _r $post. Okay, so this is how we're going to pass the data. So there's no way we can pass it here without a form. So we're going to use postman here in this case. So for passing, I create a new one here. It's going to be post, and URL we need to change it to /insert.php. I copy this and paste it here. And if I send it now, we get one. We don't have any values currently, so I go to body, form data. And here we need to pass a value. So we need to basically pass first title. And I want to have a title, let's say title 99. Then second is description we are expecting. So it's going to be description 99. And then we need to have a category ID. And let's add it 3. Well, let's add 4. We have 4 as well. Okay, hit send. And we have something here. If you notice, we have the title, description, it's an array, and it has values. So now that means it counted it, it found the values, and then it printed it. So if we have it this way, that means we can pass the values. So if you remember, we have the create new record post, and we are having pass here. We are assigning the values, so we can do that. So let's do that. So remove this. Creating new post from user input. All right. So here I'm gonna say simply $param. So we need to define what value goes where, because we want values just like this: title, description, category, ID. So here we want to say they're going to be the title, which is going to be equal to, and we saw that we have values coming here, so we simply passed that. So we say $post, and here, just like this, title. Then the same way we want to work with other two values, so I'm just going to copy and paste here. So this is going to be description, and category underscore ID. We can copy and paste these here because the names are the same. Now as our param is ready, we can pass it to the function. We can call this function now, so let's do that. So here we say simply $post, and for $post we have $post coming from here, and then we are saying that we need this function. So create new post, and we pass this straight away. So we have data, we are passing it straight away here. Now we can put this in if condition so that we can display the success message based on that. So here I'm going to say if this, and just the way we did previously, we can create a message here. So here I paste like message, and we say here post added successfully. Alright, all looks good to me. Let's see what happens. So we call the method, everything is fine for now. So if I hit send this time, we have post added successfully, and that's great. So if I go to database, and there we have another post with the data, right? So we successfully added the post. Now I want to also show you if you want to pass the raw data instead of $post. So we already have a check. This condition only work if we have the data passed from form like this. But what if you want to pass an object or raw data? So we can do that too. In that case, you just go to raw. Now this condition will fail because this time the rate data is going to be different type. So we need to put it, the code, the logic for it in the separate. So I will say here else. So if it is not $post, then process it this way. And for that, I'm going to create a variable here. So it's going to be $data. And when we get the data, we're going to JSON decode the data first. And there we want to use a function, file, get contents. All right, this is the function. And we pass here double quotes and then PHP colon / input. That's it. So this is how you get the data. JSON decode. Now this variable will hold that data. So here, what are we going to say? We can even specify for this particular variable. So if I say here else if is set $data, then go and here it's if, not if. Okay. So here we can deal with this. So here I'm going to say print _r $data to see what we are getting. All right. So this time I'm going to go here and create an object, and I'm going to pass here title, and I'm going to say here new awesome title. So we don't have any title like this, and we have description, and this is going to be new awesome description, just to test things out here. So here category _ ID, and it's going to be 2 this time. All right, now hit send, and we get an object. You can see here title, awesome title, as we expected, just like that. So that means we can get the values with the arrow because it's an object. So we can use similarity the same way, because data is coming from here, but we need to pass in param. So what I do, I copy this again and I paste it here. Now here, when we paste it, because we are gonna get data from $data this time, we want to pass here $data, and it's gonna be title. And again, $data, we put it here like this, and then description, and again $data, category ID. Rest all stays the same. So data if coming like this, we are going to get from $data. Other it is coming from $_post, we're getting it like this, two different ways. So here we saw the output. This time it is going to insert it. So currently, if I go to database, we don't have it there. So now if I go to Postman and hit send, post added successfully. So if I go back here and browse, you can see the awesome title, awesome description. It added successfully. That's great. So that's how we insert it. So we saw two ways of inserting it. Now let's see how we can update it. Now for that, I do is copy this and open a new one, paste here. We're gonna call this file. So if you got familiar with the code so far, you get the idea. We need to create for each operation a separate file. So it's going to be update method, going to be put method for this one, and let's do that. So I go back here inside the post, we create a file. I'm going to call it update.php, and I'm going to copy everything till here. So we're going to go pass it through object and paste here like this. Now we want a function that is update. We're going to update the data, but we don't have that function currently, so let's write that function. So I'm going to minimize this one. So here in the post model, method for updating posts. All right, so in this one is going to be public function. I call it update simply, and we also want to pass here params, because obviously we will have some data coming, and that is going to be assigned to the values. So here try statement. We want to place similar logic here the way we did here. So what I want to do, I want to copy this version to save time. So this goes like here. Now it is going to update, so we will be having access to ID. So it's going to be having ID here, and yeah. Now let's add the query. So here strings. Here we say query for updating existing record. $query. Again, we need to write a query, then prepare it, then execute it. So just do that. So here we say update. Now we're updating it, so we need to pass here database name, $this table, which we defined on top. And here inside the query, it's going to be quite similar to the insert query. So we're going to say set. And I will log in, pass the named parameters in this case, title, and then we want category, underscore ID, and category, underscore ID, and then description. It's just going to say $post and equals $this connection to get the access to connection and prepare it, and pass the $query. Now we need to bind the values. So for binding the values, we can again go here to save time, because we did the similar thing previously. So we can do that again. Paste here. All right. So we have title, detail, category ID, but we don't have ID, so let's add the ID here. So I'm going to put ID, and .id and this .id. All right, looks great. Now let's do this. As I simply say here, if, and we want to say $post execute, then return true, just like the way we did in create, otherwise return false. Alright, so this is the method. So far so good, everything is looking fine. Now we can use this method in our update file. So in our update file we can, we just need to call it nothing different here. So let's say if is set $data. So because we're getting the data here and we want to use that data to set up our params. So here I'm going to say, or we can copy it from here actually. So go to here, copy, go to update, paste. And the only thing I need to change here is ID, because we have ID, $data ID. So here I'd say updating. Okay, great. Now we need to call the function, so let's do that. So here we say $post, and the function is update simply, and we are passing the params. Right, now we can also give it the just like this, the way we did here. So paste here and change this to this. Yeah, brilliant. That should work just fine here. So yeah, let's see if everything is alright. It works okay. So we need to work with the update this time. So I get a postman update, put method. We go to the body, raw. Now, what data we want to update? So we have here the ID 3. So I want to change everything there. So let's do that. So here I say, alright, the object will have ID, which is going to be equal to 3. This is the record we want to update. Title, updated post of ID 3, and description, simply updated data in post, and then we have category underscore ID. So currently that post has ID 3, category ID, so we can give it let's give it a 1. Alright, so far so good. So let's see what happens. So if I hit send, and alright, let's debug it. So I go back here to file. What we are doing, we have update. Let's close all the files. So update here, we have connection, we are getting the data, then we're passing it here if it's set, and we're getting ID, title, description, category ID. Spellings are alright, and then we're passing to update method all the params. Here we're just saying the let's change the message to updated. Here in post, and method here, we're getting all the values. In query, I think we need the space here and the table name, and set title, category, details, ID. So here ID, title, details, category ID. This is all good. Execute true, and yeah, I think might be this caused it. So let's check that. So go here, send. No. Okay, so in the postman, we need to go into the headers, and here we need to pass here content type. Alright, and here we want to say application JSON, Okay, because we are passing the JSON data here, so it should be like that. And header, check it. It should be checked as well. So yeah, now you can see that it is, if I go back here and uncheck it and go back to body, it is not colored and it is not telling us anything. But if we go to header and check it, we say it's a JSON data, it tells us okay, this is JSON and there is an issue in JSON, so we remove this. So rest all is good, we have put in the same file. Now, okay, if I go here, we don't have the data updated. Now if I hit send, you can see that the data is updated. If I go to database, success, we have the data updated. So if you're passing the JSON content, so you can pass the header just to get some validation. So because we had the error here, it was causing the issue, and it was happening here. So we were not getting it in the PHP any error. So yeah, now let's work with delete method. So delete is going to be quite similar to update. So always, like, we won't be passing all these, we simply pass the ID and delete it. So here I'm going to say the method to delete post from database, and let's call it destroy. So public function destroy post. Alright, I go into the update method and copy everything from here to save time, of course. Now I'm gonna minimize it, paste here, and we're gonna edit it now. So here we need the ID in params. So we simply can say, instead of param, it's gonna be ID, right? And it's gonna be straight away like that. So $ID, this is the ID we wanna work with. The query, so for the query, I'm going to remove this, which is going to be delete from. Now we need to pass the table name, so single quote break, pass here $this table. Alright, where ID is equal to this, and we need to bind the ID, that's all. So here we want to pass, we are passing the ID there, we're binding it here, that's fine. It's again, I'm going to execute here, that's alright, that's great. So yeah, so it should work. Now we need it again. To go to that URL, we need to create another file. I create here destroy.php, and just like update, I copy everything from update.php and paste here. So we have here till this, and then we need to pass an ID. So we can pass ID just like this if it is here, and we want to say that this ID, and I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to pass the ID like that there. Post deleted successfully, and here deleting posts from user input. So far so good, all is at place, it should work. So we have the yeah, so we're passing the ID, and it should go delete from table, query, yeah, all should go. Let's test it. So I go back here, as we are going to use the raw data, again, header is required in this case. Here, I'm gonna remove all the fields. So we have the category ID, change it to ID, and we need to remove ID 3, because we have minimum 3, so here. Let's see, send, we need to change it to delete, and here it's going to be destroy.php, that's the file we created, so hit it, and we have error. Alright, looks like I forgot to add dot here, sorry about that. So let's try again, send, and try to access offset value integer.
Okay, we forgot the destroy method, so it's not updated. It's destroy post. So it goes here. So let's see. It should work this time. Send. Post deleted successfully. Go here. Post is gone. So beautiful. It's working as expected. So if I go here in the body, and this time let's say with the ID of 5, we have ID 5 here. Hit again. Post deleted successfully. It's gone. Alright, so the API part is complete for this app with PDO. I hope you like this video. You can leave your comment in description in the comment section, and the link for the code is in the description. Thank you for watching this video, and see you in the next one. Bye.
And our goal is not in